The Lost in Transition podcast is brought to you by LB Endurance. LB Endurance, turning you into a legit badass. Learn more today at lbendurance.com.
And then I told her the cost, and she's like, definitely no, like absolutely not. And then she hung up on me, and I was like, huh, and I was still going to buy it.
Welcome to the Lost in Transition podcast. I'm your host, Chris Gerard, joined by Derek Tingle here in just a few minutes. And can you believe it's mid-May already? I know there are some races on my race calendar that are getting maybe uncomfortably close. And certainly enjoying training in the great outdoors, though the heat has just, I don't know what it is about the heat this year. I do not like it one bit, and I live in the wrong part of the U.S. to have that affliction, but slowly but surely we'll get there over the summertime. Hope your race season is going well. Let us know how it's going for you and any topics you'd like to hear on upcoming shows as well. We are here to help you, and you can help us by subscribing, rating, and reviewing iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, the TuneIn Radio app. You can stream us on Facebook or on YouTube and listen via the website losttransition.com. We will mail you a CD if you send us a self-addressed envelope. It is that convenient to listen to the Lost in Transition podcast. Some upcoming shows you should be aware of as you watch the podcast feed. Coming up in a couple weeks, we talk to running coach Pete McGill as we try to figure out how in the world to get faster on the third leg of a triathlon. Always one of the most challenging things, even for good runners. We're going to talk to him about that and running in general, figure out how we can maybe shave a few seconds off or more off of the running pace. And also the week after that, Kristen Seymour, triathlete and co-host of the Fit Bottom Girls podcast, is going to be on to talk about her journey in the sport and also as a podcaster. That should be a lot of fun talking to her coming up about 3 weeks away in your podcast feed. Watch for that. If you subscribe, you will not miss an episode. Tonight, we are talking to Josh Sprague. He's the founder of Orange Mud, and actually just when we recorded this, I had just gotten off the plane from my home state of Michigan, where he had just completed a 100-mile gravel bike race, which is honestly insane, as are most of the things that he does, both with his company and as an endurance athlete. He's done Ironman, he's done a lot of adventure racing, trail running, mountain biking, you name it. So we talk a little bit in the beginning about his company, Orange Mud, that was founded back in 2012, and the products they create for hydration, and also some cool custom gear that they've rolled out, and just what goes into designing. He's got a real mind for design, so it was a pleasure to talk to him about that. And then we delve a little bit into his race experience and the crazy adventures he gets into, and all the traveling he does around the country to cool spots to race. And then also at the end of all of this, we have a special promo code for the listeners to get you 15% off Orange Mud products for the next 30 days. So be sure to keep listening through the end so you can get discounts on the awesome Orange Mud products, and also go to our website to win an Orange Mud gift card. We've got the entry and the contest details in the show notes here. Just go to losttransition.com for those show notes and a link to enter to win. Without further delay, Josh Sprague on the other side of the break on the Lost in Transition podcast. Josh Sprague has been on the hunt for adventure since he was born. He grew up in the outdoors with an active lifestyle that growing up in small towns often encourages. That passion for hard work and adventure continued as Josh went on to participate in adventure races, trail running, and triathlon. He founded Orange Mud in 2012 as a way to provide a better product in the endurance sports hydration market. Orange Mud now offers a wide range of hydration options, plus custom clothing and other gear. Josh, welcome to Lost in Transition.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be on.
All right, so first off, Orange Mud. It's kind of a catchy name. Where did that come from?
When I started this business, we had recently had my new baby boy named Jax, but I thought we were going to name him Clay because that was my middle name, and it was so cool, and I always wanted to use it, but since it's my middle name, I never got to use it. And when we discussed names, my wife's like, your name's a stupid name, so no, we're not going to name our boy that. So I lost the battle, and then it was like 3 months after our little boy was born that I decided to, I came up with this idea, and I said, hey, we're going to start a business, and my name's going to be in it. And, we haven't slept for like 3 months, mind you, and my wife's like, whatever, just do what you want. But I couldn't make Clay work because I couldn't get a name to work with what I felt was going to work with the brand we wanted. So what I ended up doing is spending like 4 or 5 hours on GoDaddy buying 42 domain names that night. And Clay evolved through the night and through a little bit of wine drinking that night from Clay's a Mud. And then where I grew up in Kansas, I lived in Arizona, like up in Sedona area, or lived in Phoenix, but Goose in Sedona. And there's like Reddish Clay, and there's Reddish Clay in Oklahoma and Kansas, all these places. So as the Reddish Clay evolved to, well, it's kind of orange, and then Orange Mud. That's how the name came about.
Right. Mud is what you get if you hydrate clay, so that works pretty well, actually.
That's true. Yeah, it ties all together.
Yeah.
And even this weekend, I'm heading back to my home state to go race in some mostly gray clay. But there'll be probably a little bit of orange, maybe orange mud on the course in the south end of it. And yeah, it's been a good sticky name, pardon the pun, but it really has. People hear it and remember it, which is, I think, half the battle when you start a company is just getting people to remember a name.
Oh, certainly. Well, and it leads right into using things like your company colors that you've used and what have you. It just all works together very well with the branding. So you mentioned starting the company. This is right after your son is born, so that's kind of a crazy time to do a venture. How did that decision come about, and what were your wife's thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was probably a not very intelligent decision, given neither one of us had probably slept for basically the first year and a half that he was alive. And then we had my daughter, like right then, and then she wasn't sleeping much either. But yeah, I just finished training for Ironman St. George and racing in Ironman St. George, and I got tired of stashing bottles and all this during training. I hate waist packs and fanny pack or the handhelds and all that, and so I really wanted to build a pack to work with triathlon. So, and then in looking at, both of our schedules, we both had very demanding jobs. One of us had to give, and, my wife kind of was a little more open to that idea. So I was like, well, I tell you what, I'm going to make this product that is going to be awesome. Hopefully, worst case scenario, I think it's going to cost $50,000, and worst case, we're going to have 2 backpacks worth $25,000 each, perfectly designed for us. And yeah, hopefully you'll be able to run the business, and you'll still have a nice flexible schedule to manage our boy at the time. And then, next thing you know, it just worked, and it actually took off. And it was probably a year and a half into it before she was actually able to quit her job, and 3 years into it before I was able to quit mine. But yeah, that's how it all started, is to fix a solution in both hydration to make it better, and then the other is, how do we make our little family work? And both came together to work quite well.
Awesome. Hey, Josh, this is Derek over here. Hey, so when you were putting all this stuff together and you were sitting and you were thinking about, starting a business and getting your ideas together and stuff like that, what do you think you would classify as like the most challenging, frustrating thing you came across? Was it managing the family side of that, or was it actually the business side, putting the ideas together and getting your product lined up and prototyping and those sorts of things?
Yeah, it was definitely the prototype side. I mean, the family side wasn't easy, but my wife was totally on board with it, and we kind of had this understanding. It may not have always been a happy understanding, but we had this understanding that when I came home from work from my day job, I basically went upstairs and I worked on Orange Mud. And, so we had this, I obviously tried to help with the kids as much as possible, but we had this goal of, we want to build this brand. This has legs. And so the family part wasn't terrible. It was just, trying. But as far as the biggest challenge with getting the business off the ground was simply finding people to actually help us make stuff. Everybody talks about making the USA, it's awesome and all this, but the reality is, good luck finding people in this industry to sew for you in the US. That's a really, really, really hard thing to do. And we found them, but it was through mad amounts of work. It's not like you just want to go hire somebody to design a website for you. It's so far beyond that, because most of the people in the U.S. that build backpacks, they build them for the medical device and the military side of things. No one has interest in working with people like us in the commercial side of things that sell to consumers, because they know in the end everything's made overseas for consumers, so it's a limited life that they're going to get. So and the margins and everything are obviously tighter. So that was really the hardest part, is finding someone to help me with prototyping and then go to production.
Now, when you were looking for production in the U.S. Was that a hard, fast, conscious decision for you, or was that something that it was just kind of I guess why didn't you go overseas for production on that?
Yeah, I tell you, I have mixed opinions with overseas manufacturing. My background is in medical device manufacturing, and I ran basically a huge machine shop that made implantable devices and stuff for the defense industry. And it was all done in the U.S., of course, for that. And so to me, I really wanted to make sure I'm supporting workers here at home. And I just felt that I didn't know enough about what I was jumping into. I knew the fit, form, and function, but I didn't know materials. I didn't know I knew how to design a high-tech spinal implant or something, or some maybe pacemaker or whatever, all the widgets that go into that. That's what my background was. But building a backpack and knowing how to have the proper stitch length and stitch count and just all these different things, I didn't have the bandwidth. So I really wanted to work with someone locally also for that. I just wanted to be able to say, hey, man, here's what I want, and here's what I want it to look like. Can you help me make it? And I didn't want to have to reach 3,000 miles across the ocean to do that. So, it really was. We have since moved overseas, and we were kind of forced to by growth and by margins and cost and all this stuff. But the reality is, we did find some great sources here in the U.S., and we still use some here in the U.S. as well. That have really helped us to get our products to market, and I'm forever thankful for them. But as our brand grew, we did outgrow some of their own capabilities, especially with prototyping and keeping up with some of our growth demands too.
So you mentioned the prototyping side of it. I recall reading a story somewhere that how you were working on the very original prototype, or the prototype of the prototype, maybe even, and sewing together. Was there a gun holster involved? I feel like.
Yeah, there was. It's a gun holster, a waist pack, and a tie down strap, or the things that I used to craft this whole thing together, and then the hotel room sewing kit that I snagged on one of my adventures, just traveling for work. And yeah, believe it or not, it actually worked when I sewed the thing together. It just looked like it was worth about, a quarter.
Right.
the value of it. So that was honestly our biggest struggle. When I went for a run that first night that I built it, I came back and I told my wife, I'm like, man, having this bottle up so high on your back is freaking amazing. However, it's definitely problematic because I don't know if anybody will ever pay for this, because it literally looks like it's worth about a quarter. And
right.
So we had a long ways to go. So we had it's like basically having a car frame with wheels and nothing else above that. Maybe a car seat. That's
right.
it. But
right.
there's no body, there's no electronics.
Very
no
soapbox,
you could push
soapbox
That's
derby
basically
size.
where we were.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, that raises an interesting question about design, because I've read you were talking about that, and how the key to that is finding really what sucks about a piece of gear and making it better. Now, besides your own analysis of a product, which obviously you get a lot of chances to do with all the racing that you do and what have you, who else do you involve to determine what sucks about a current piece of gear and how to improve it? And then how do you handle conflicting opinions? Because eventually, somebody's going to passionately disagree. The thing about endurance athletes is we all have very strong opinions about gear.
Yeah, and that's a funny question. So yeah, in the beginning, it was really kind of myself and a buddy of mine that and obviously my wife, but I mean outside of my wife and I, is my friend Jack. I'd kind of send stuff to him, and him and I had done a lot of years adventure racing together, and that's where a lot of these ideas really stemmed from. I mean, I had thought about bottle position and just weight of a pack and where it should be on your body from years of adventure racing and staring at my teammates' backs while we're out running forever. And so I started picking his brain a little bit, and then some of my buddies at work and that type of stuff. But really, what really got our foothold, we started with one product, and we evolved slowly into others. And when we started adding our ambassador team became absolutely amazing. And I'd post a picture, like our Best Pack 2. I still remember the day I posted a picture of that product in our ambassador team, and at the time we maybe had 40 ambassadors. And I said, hey, what do you guys think of this? and I had probably 70 comments in the first 45 minutes. So from that, all positive, constructive things. And I went and I made version 2 that day, as crude as I could do at the time. I was getting a little better with my sewing skills. And I came back, I posted the next version, and then I got more feedback. And then by the end of the night, like in one day, we basically got a product from basically ground zero to 95%. And then it took another, 6 months of fine tweaking and everything with our actual manufacturer. But yeah, our ambassador team has been amazing for helping to get new products out and provide ideas of, hey, I don't like on my pack that I have this feature. Can you add this in? That's been great. But now, we have a 334-person ambassador team, I believe it is, and it is a little bit funnier. So I've been playing with materials lately, and materials are funny because you create this basically a graphic, and there's a big difference. Like on your website, you see Hear Us on Stitcher graphic. So there's a yellow, red, blue, green of their logo. That on a computer monitor looks very, very blunt, right? It's those simple 4 colors.
Right.
But if you printed that on a graphic, it would totally change. Like on a fabric, it would change the look of it. So the other day, I posted up this idea I had of some different flannels we were going to run this new fabric in to try to get a more feminine product out there for a lot of our ladies that ask for not pink packs, but we want something feminine.
Right.
And basically everybody's like, you're an idiot. That looks terrible, like overwhelmingly. And so I'm sitting here like, I think a lot of them maybe can't see, because in the end, I know that they're looking at something that isn't exactly what the end product will look like by a good magnitude. In my head, I know kind of what it will look like, but even in my head, I really don't. I mean, there's some of these things it's theory until you see it printed. You're like, oh, that looks terrible.
Right.
So, there's definitely a lot of feedback I get that is like, yeah, well, you're either, I disagree, or sometimes it is a crusher. And like the whole flannel print, honestly, I've pretty much kind of killed the idea, given like the vast majority of everybody bashed on it. But I still personally think it's a great one, so I may have to do it in something else. I don't know. But yeah, it's just a balancing act. But I mean, we get oodles amount of feedback too from our customers all the time. I mean, I had a guy email in this morning saying, hey, in 48 years of buying products, I've never given a product review, and I just wanted to say this is one of the greatest packs I've ever had, and this is why. He's like, I don't even know if anybody reads this. He sent it in through our main contact page, and he gave a whole bunch of feedback, and it's awesome. I mean, we get that all the time, and I keep all those in a design file. Every note that can change a future direction, I keep in a design file, and we use that for future development.
Very cool. And so we may be backtracking just a little bit here, but your first product was the Hydra Quiver, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
So when you were coming up with that idea, obviously that we talked a little bit about, the bottles and stuff, but when you were designing the quiver, tell me a little bit about that. Because I mean, that's an interesting design. That's something, obviously no one else had done. Sticking a bottle high up on your back like that. I mean, I've seen running belts and stuff where they keep them low, and the handhelds and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm really interested in talk me through that a little bit of how that whole idea came to pass. To store the bottles, the quiver style in the back.
Yeah. So really, the first thing that I always tell people is that in racing for all these years, I've always paid attention to packs. I can't stand packs that flop around on my back. And when you look at a typical backpack, the way most are designed, they go down so far on your body that your front strap kind of goes at a big, deep angle. It has nothing to anchor on. So my thought was, if I could anchor a pack on your front of your shoulder, and that's it. Pull that strap right under your armpit, nice and tight, up high on your frame. Your upper shoulders, they just don't hardly move. So by having a light hold on something that's still fairly light on your upper back, it doesn't hardly move anyway. It should be perfect. But if you look at your next time you're on a run, just look at your friends' backs in front of you, and you'll see your upper shoulders barely move, slightly up and down. Your thoracic region, your center of your body, kind of has this slight twist. And then you go into your lumbar region, and it's this like circular motion, hence why anything in your lumbar region is almost impossible to stabilize running, hence why most everybody can't stand waist packs.
Right.
So I kind of blended these two ideas together, And I just thought it would work, but I really didn't know, because I figured it wouldn't. Just like anything, you know, sometimes you have these ideas, you're like, this should work great, but then why did no one else ever do it? So when I actually built it and realized this works amazing, I was super excited. But I tell you, one of the most frustrating parts of building new products is getting people to actually think it'll work. And that was probably one of the most frustrating starts. Like I envisioned, like, cool, I designed this product, it's amazing, it works awesome, everybody's going to want to buy it. And then you go out there and you talk to retail stores, and a lot of people are like, I don't know, it looks kind of stupid. or why would they put it there? Everybody puts bottles in the front. I'm like, well, why do they put bottles in the front? We're like, well, that's just because that's the way they do it. I'm like, well, but why would you put bottles in the front? That's what you're leaning forward. Why would you want weight there? And they're like, but that's because that's what people do. I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. Just think about it. Like, where do you wear a heavy backpack? Where does the weight go? It goes on your back. Well, would you rather carry a backpack on your chest with, say, 20 pounds in it? Well, no. Okay, well, why wouldn't you try it? So it was what I found is innovating is something that is a penalty for a while. And then once you get traction, it's awesome. But in the beginning, the penalty of innovation is very, very, very frustrating, and it's just a never ending. And I mean, it even still is a battle for that matter. Obviously, we've been around for 6 years and we've got tremendous traction with our bottle-based packs. But at retail, our number one product are always our handhelds and bladder packs, because that's what people know, and people don't want to generally have to work too hard to sell them. So you just don't sell bottles as much. But to our consumer audience, direct to consumer, who researches all the time, you know, we sell tons of our bottle packs. So it's crazy. It's crazy process.
It's interesting that you mentioned the retail side of it there a little bit, because I noticed that you're not shy about categorizing a lot of your gear, especially stuff like the Hydro Quiver, as a premium product, really meant to reach a really small segment of the running and triathlon markets, the really serious people, like you say, who research this. And what are some of the advantages and challenges you've run into selling products to such a very specific and small group of consumers like that?
You know, I don't think we don't really have a whole lot of challenges, and the reason why is that group is so passionate about the sport that they generally research the crap out of it. And something that I do, probably almost to a fault, on our website, you know, we put videos. We always make sure we've got a lot of blogs and content and reviews all over there, and so you have basically more content than you can possibly imagine to review before you buy something. And then in addition, the descriptions that I put in there are extremely lengthy. And I do it because I am kind of one of them nerds too. I like to do a lot of big endurance stuff. I'm a little more type A type of guy, and I think that's what that demo really aligns with. So yeah, I think it's been honestly pretty easy in that front. And again, that same group is the one that will give you feedback saying, hey, I'm an engineer, and here's what I would suggest doing different, or here's what I think you could improve on this. So it's actually been kind of a win all the way around.
Right. Well, it does allow for a very specific design, and like you say, a lot of feedback, a lot of passion involved in it that you're not going to get from people, buying a $20 water bottle in a running store somewhere. So that it keeps the focus a little deeper.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like when I started this, the whole thought was Ironman, and I guess that's probably one of the best examples. So when I designed the Hydro Quiver, it was after doing an Ironman, and the whole sport of trail and ultra running was kind of still taking off at the time. It's still really new. But when we were at Ironman Arizona for our first big expo, a lot of these people come by are buying the pack, and I kept asking each one, like, what is your primary sport? And so many of them are like, I do Ironman for fun. I'm an ultra runner, though, is really what I really do. And I was like, dang, I'm like, these people are freaking crazy. I'm like, Ironman already is hard. And I barely knew of the sport of ultra running. I'd only had a couple people at the time that I had known that had done it. So it was kind of a whole different twist. So I made a little bit of a pivot and focus, because all of our customers buying it were ultra runners, or at least a vast majority. So it helped to shape overall direction of the product line. And again, all these people kept giving me feedback like, hey, I love the single barrel pack, but now I want front chest pockets because I like to put extra stuff in there, food, nutrition, arm warmers, whatever. So next thing you know, we make the vest pack style with front chest pockets. And then, hey, I run really long distances. I need 2 bottles. Yep. Okay, cool. We made a 2 bottle pack, one without chest pockets, one with chest pockets. And so it's been interesting to see how these groups have both in parallel helped to give us different directions of feedback that often lead to the exact same goals. But yeah, it's a never evolving process.
The other product that Orange Mud is known for quite a bit is the transition wrap. I've seen a lot of those out there in triathlon parking lots after a race and what have you. And the story of how that got to be, well, I think pretty much any triathlete or ultra runner has been there trying to get into something clean and dry without getting arrested.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that one started, I was out, my buddies and I, we mountain biked after work a lot, and we'd go from our dress clothes into changing our workout clothes at the trailhead in Southern California, which is where we were at the time. And there was this big dirt parking lot at the trail. There's no one around. It was kind of a little bit wilderness in the city, I guess, if you will. So we changed all the time and never thought anything of it. But what I didn't like is sitting on my seat after exercise, being all sweaty, disgusting, bloody from crashing on a mountain bike or whatever. So I wanted a tool to be able to flip over the seat and not have my towel slide off, which is one of them. It's a simple process in that way. But then the other side, all of a sudden they started building houses in there, and I don't know, I didn't think anybody moved in yet. You know how fast they build houses,
right?
And I was sitting there changing at my car, and I'm sitting there butt naked, and I look over, and there's like this little 5-year-old girl, and she's probably 300 yards away, so it's a good ways away. But again, I just had my little boy. I mean, at that point, he was probably 4 months old, and I look over at this girl, and like my life flashed forward like 7, 8, 10 years, somewhere there, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to, that little girl's going to tell her mom's going to tell the cops. Next thing you know, cops are going to come to my house. I'm going to be a registered sexual offender. I'm not going to be able to drop off my kid at school in 5 years. I'm like, this whole process got crazy. And of course, thankfully, nothing ever happened. But it was in that moment, I was like, man, I really need to build a towel that won't fall off when you're changing. And people tell me all the time, like, oh, I change in public. I don't care. I'm like, it's not what you care about. Unfortunately, in today's society, you got to worry, man. People are a little more freaky about those type of things, and you may get away with it, but you could also get in deep trouble. So hence why, we wanted to have a product that was this dual purpose. So it's been awesome. We've sold, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of those, and that's been really what helped to put us on the map as a company, especially in the retail front, which gave us that backwards brand validity to hydration packs, which helped to propel us forward. So it's weird how that product is, just how much it's done for us.
If you wanted both sides of the market on that product, you could have like a legal representation insurance scheme going on the side for those who didn't buy it.
I know, right?
One or the other.
That's true.
Another totally random product that I ran across on the website. Is it the Bartow pub hat? What's the story behind that?
The
Bartow. That's awesome. Okay, so
Kevin will appreciate this.
Go ahead.
So one of our ambassadors, his name's Kevin Bartow, and he and many others. Every time I post a new design, I'm like, hey guys, here's something I'm working on. What do you think about this? And a lot of times they're like, oh, that's great and everything. But what I often get is, hey, have you thought about making this? And like, have you thought about making a steel pint glass? Have you thought about a pub hat? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And I get all these different questions about, hey, have you thought about this? Well, the pub hat is one that he hounded me on for like I don't know, 3 years probably. So finally one day I was working with one of my suppliers overseas on some hats, and I found this pub hat, and I was like, hey. So I shipped in the pub hat to me, and I sewed one of our patches on it, and I posted it online as $750 the Bartow pub hat on sale for $25 or whatever it is, and I posted it out just really goofing off. And I tell you what, man, I don't even know how many of those we've sold. We've sold a lot of them, and obviously it made Kevin Bartow happy, and he wears it still to this day. But yeah, so it was really just kind of poking fun back at him, saying, okay, finally, I made your freaking pub hat, so shut up and give me another legitimate idea. But yeah, so it's kind of taken off as a product.
That's hilarious.
We were down to like 5 of them the other day. I had to make a bunch more.
Wow.
So
that's really hilarious because there's a couple triathletes around here, pretty well known in the East Tennessee area, that are also named Bartow, though they dropped the W on the end. And they've also been known to show up at races in changing kilts. Now, they're not orange mud, so we'll tell them we got to get the transition.
We'll work on that.
Well, yeah, so we can have product, sponsor loyalty, if you will, right there. But they would look very good in the Bartow pub hat. I think we're definitely going to send that link along for their review right there. Ready to take on that first Ironman, improve your next century ride time, or just build up from a sprint triathlon to your next bucket list event? Let LB Endurance Coaching be your guide on the journey. Head coach Lana Burrow brings her racing experience, coaching acumen, and education to craft a training experience that invigorates and challenges triathletes, cyclists, runners, and swimmers. LB Endurance offers one-on-one coaching, clinics, classes, training camps, and consultation. Certified, insured, and embracing the best of today's technology, Lana will turn you into a legit badass. Visit lbendurance.com to learn more and like LB Endurance on Facebook. You have a wide variety of stuff that you do. It is not tunnel vision for you. The adventure racing, the mountain biking, the ultra running, trail running, and the Iron up to Ironman. So, of all of those, I mean, what one did you get started on? How did that kind of progress?
Well, I guess I started, I ran cross country in high school, so I've always been a runner. And I guess like anybody, you ride bikes growing up. But when I moved to Arizona, when I was 22, my boss at the time, he was a mountain biker, and it just seemed really neat. I liked running, but I loved riding my bike as a kid so much, and so I started going out and riding with him, and it was just so cool because you can get out and explore, and you see more of what you're doing when you're on a bike. I love running because it's truly an adventure, but I just biked 100 miles on Sunday with a buddy of mine in Michigan, and it was great because you get out and explore and you see the world, and you're constantly looking around and seeing all this awesome stuff, which you don't always get running because it's so hard to look up sometimes. So I definitely say biking is my passion, and I love to mix in both. So yeah, I trail run a lot, I mountain bike a lot. I've kind of taken a little break from triathlon. I find it takes up too much of my life, where I can get away
anything at all about
with
that.
Doing a little bit. Yeah, I know. Once you've done Ironman, it kind of breaks you. I've done it 5-6 years apart with Ironman, and each time you finish, I'm like, oh man. Don't get me wrong, I love the sport, mad respect for everybody, but with having little kids, it's easier for me, as crazy as it sounds, to train. Like this year, I'm doing 100-mile runs, 100-mile bike rides, 200-mile bike rides, and it's a lot easier for me to train for that than it is for me to train for an Ironman. So, and I think it's maybe just in my head because I just feel like it's just the bike, or it's just the run, but yet, yeah, it's long, but I can always walk. An Ironman, it's all about push, push, push. It's pushing out every little power step everywhere you can, and I think it's harder to look at. For me personally, it's harder for me to look at Ironman training as kind of halfway doing it, where mountain biking and ultra running, it's a little bit easier to kind of not necessarily fake it, but I guess blend the two sports together and not have to go to the pool and spend that extra time there. So it's
who needs
a tricky
the black
one,
line?
but yeah, I love everything. I just love to keep busy.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that the feeling of Ironman. It's not uncommonly known that I have very strong opinions on Ironman after the one that I did and the none that I intend to do again. But it's just such a time commitment. I mean, you're putting so much into it, and I'm with you, man. I mean, biking's been my passion too. That's what got me into this whole mess to start with, was just how much I loved riding my bike. And yeah, it doesn't seem like I can spend all the time I want on the bike, and I never get tired, I never get bored. It's just the thing that I love to do. But God, you go swim for like 30 minutes and it's just like all I can tolerate,
I know. Well, and, ironically, swimming is still one of my favorite things to do. I've got a waterproof iPod Shuffle. Man, I put in my headset and I can swim for an hour or two and just jam. I love it because it's a sport that allows you to exercise without thinking, and I feel like I'm not working very hard. And maybe that's probably half my problem swimming. Maybe I'd be a faster swimmer, but especially doing endurance swimming, it's just fun. But yeah, it's the time commitment. It's having to it's spending that time to go to the gym to only work out for 40 minutes where, I think a lot of us, we just get older and there's only so much time in the day. And if I can squeak out 40 minutes, I'm going to go out for a quick 40-minute run or ride.
Right.
Rather than
time.
spend 40 just going to and from the pool, But yeah, it's, and for me, I love gravel. I even sold my road bike last year and have just fully committed to riding gravel and kind of, it led this whole new change to focusing on gravel biking and as well as mountain biking. And it's safer. I worry so much about getting killed. I feel like my time and risk has been high, and I feel like maybe it's time that I not trust people texting on the road and stick to gravel.
Yeah, gravel's a lot of fun. We do a lot of that up around in here. There's some really awesome roads and stuff that we found back up in the mountains, and it's just a whole other kind of riding. Mountain biking and single track is awesome in itself, but I mean, there's just something about getting lost on a gravel road out in the middle of nowhere that's just an awesome feeling.
Absolutely, I agree 5,000%.
Have you thought about doing? Being as you sound like you like to swim. Have you thought about doing any of the swim run stuff? Have you picked up on any of that?
Yeah, you know what? It's definitely a thought. I don't know if there's any here in Colorado. I'm sure there is, but that sport has been blowing up. I actually made a custom swim run harness for one of our ambassadors the other day. So we actually have an official swim run orange mud harness that is quantity of one. Not the East Coast right now, but. So I don't know. I may even make a harness for it. I mean, I always feel like a cheater if I'm making a product for a sport that I haven't done, but I have done. I mean, everybody swim. Yeah. Well, if you've been in an Ironman or adventure racer, you've done this. But it's amazing to me how that sport has blown up, and I think it's really great. I mean, it's all over the world. It's exploding right now, and I'm just fascinated with how it's taken off. And I don't know if it's because of it's a two-man team. Maybe that's a little bit easier to find two people that have a similar speed and interest in something like that. A lot of people want to be out in dirt and kind of get out in the way. But it's really interesting how that sport just kind of popped up and exploded.
Yeah.
When like off-road tries have died, and even the interest in regular triathlons is down. So it's been interesting. So it's definitely in my future for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm doing my first one later this year, so I'm really excited to jump in and see what all the fuss is about. I got a good friend that really does a lot for the swim run stuff around where he's from, and it looks just like a ton of fun. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, once I'm done swimming, I'm done. I don't want to get back in. Not for anything.
I know. Like the whole thought of running in a wetsuit is peculiar to me.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
So,
it's not bad. I've done a couple workouts in my swim run kit so far, and it wasn't as bizarre as you think. Because if the swim run kit, the actual wetsuit, it's designed in a way that makes it a little bit easier to run. It's got thinner panels on the inside of the legs and stuff. So when we get out of the water, you're already goofy anyway. But it's. I
was about to say
it's not any more awkward than running, after a 2.5 mile swim trying to run to transition.
You still look like a total doofus, though. I'm sure.
Yeah, and your shoes weigh like 30 pounds because they're full of water. But
I don't think any one of the endurance athlete community is really mentally all there. We're all kind of crazy quite a bit. So you mentioned the 100-mile runs and 200-mile bikes, whatever, coming up. What's on your calendar for this year?
Yeah, so I just did the what's called the Hellcat 100 in Michigan yesterday. I think it was yesterday.
Oh,
yeah.
On gravel too, so that's 100 on gravel. Yesterday. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's been a long. I flew. I was up till like 12:30 last night. I flew out at 6 this morning out of Michigan back home here in Colorado. So it made for a wild day. But yeah, I just did the Hellcat and had a blast. I rode it with one of my buddies who I can be kind of the devil. So you mentioned like people are twisted in the head. I talked my friend Chad into getting a gravel bike a few weeks ago. And so he's an ultra runner, and he's a beast. He's a strong athlete, and I wouldn't have necessarily probably done it had I didn't know that he could run 100 miles or anything. But yeah, he just got a gravel bike 3 weeks ago, and he rode it I think 4 times. His longest ride was 26.3 miles. So yesterday we kept celebrating him like, you just rode your furthest ever. You just rode double the distance you ever had. You just rode triple. You just rode your first 50. You just rode the first 100. So it was really cool. And dude, he shredded. I was so proud of him. I I had high confidence he'd finish, but I mean, like anything, he's not a cyclist. And you guys know how it is. When you first start cycling, I remember my first 50-mile road ride. My buddies took me on. I bonked going up this hill called a 9-mile hill or 11-mile hills that went up for 9 miles, whatever it was. And it was horrible, and they were just pricks. And I was like, man, I really am going to hurt this guy. But I tell you what, it was so cool. He crushed it, and he was so pumped. He was so ecstatic. And, you know, it made it extra sweet for me to have him with me. And then this weekend, I'm going back in my home turf in Kansas where I grew up. This race is called Maisie's Pride, and this lady raised money for years by collecting bottles and cans on the side of the road and sold them and put all that money into a savings account, and she put in a pool in this little town of Eskridge for a community pool. And the town has a population of like 100 people. It's a very poor town. And in this ride, it helps to support it. So I'm coming back as a sponsor. I'm racing it. And it goes literally past my driveway out in the sticks in Kansas, past my dad's driveway. So we're going to have a neutral aid station at mile 62 in my dad's front yard, which is really, really sweet.
That's awesome.
So I'm really pumped about that. And then, I'm doing the whole Leadville series this year. I'm doing Dirty Kansas 200, Leadville 100 run, bike, Silver Rush 50, Leadville Trail Marathon, Hawks 50 run. And I think that's it for the year. But
so just some light workouts here and there.
Taking it easy, it sounds like.
Yeah, I know. God, I seriously, I'm nervous. This ride this weekend, I know the terrain. You know, I know those roads like the back of my hand. I mean, I grew up a country boy on all of them, and it's flint rocks, sharp, a lot of kind of just janky roads and steep ups and downs. And this one's gonna. I'm gonna have to, and it's gonna be 91 degrees, 15 to 25 mile an hour winds.
Holy!
So there's gonna be some suck fest going on out there. And, I'm kind of dreading it. I'm excited, but I'm dreading it a lot, actually. So, it's going to hurt. But the whole summer, even yesterday, Dirty Kansas, I did it last year. It's 207.8 miles. And it hurt. Like, my butt was bleeding from my stitches in my chamois for a long period of time. I bonked for about 80 miles of that ride. And this year I felt like I've trained hard. I have trained harder. I've put in more miles and cross-trained more, and I've been feeling good. And then after yesterday, I was like, I don't know if I can do another 108 miles. Like, this was a poor decision. So I don't know.
I have to ask though. You didn't redesign your bike shorts after that ride? That would have been my first thought if I had your talents.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. I knew it.
I did. Yeah. And not only that. So I have two levels. So I like riding this weekend. I was great. I was in a brand new bike bib, and it's one I designed maybe 6 months ago, and then our newest one, it just showed up today. It was supposed to show up before, but my manufacturer is just a bit behind. I told him, I'm like, what is the best? I don't care what it costs. What is the best chamois that I can buy for endurance riding? And they told me. So we literally have now I have sitting upstairs in a box, and I'll be using it this weekend to test it out. The most expensive bike bib that you can buy. It's the highest end Italian chamois that you can put in a bib. So I guess I'm about to find out. It could work terribly, but it's the same design we've been using. So I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to have like scabs on my friggin' butt cheeks for 3 weeks like I did last year. That was uncomfortable.
That's certainly an improvement.
Yeah. I have hopes. I have high hopes, but I'm still nervous. 208 miles. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff. Like, most of my experience in shorts over the years, I usually use real thin tri-shorts. And I did that, especially adventure racing, because you're in and out of the water so much you want to dry off. And then even in Ironman, I always use like Zoot 6-inch, real thin chamois tri-short. So it's only been over these last few years where I've been switching back to some better chamois and whatnot that are thicker. But it's amazing how I rarely would have any issue from even a thin chamois. Once you get used to it, you can be great. But I'm pretty confident that once you go above like 150 miles, I don't care who you are, there's a great chance your butt is going to be raw.
Yeah, something's going to hurt when you're in a saddle for that long. It's just no two ways about it. Okay, so I got to ask you one other question here. Somewhere we found this little quote that says about how much you love coffee, and the little parentheses after that was, ask him to tell you about his fancy coffee machine. So I got to know about
Dude,
this
I
fancy
do.
coffee machine.
So yeah, so it was a pretty good argument with my wife. She actually said, "No, do not," and she hung up the phone on me. But yeah, so it was probably it was right about year 3. So it was when Orange Mud consumed about 60 hours of my week, and my day job was still consuming about 70 to 80 hours of my week. And we had 2 kids, and like I literally would maybe sleep 4 hours a night, and 7 days a week. I mean, on the weekends it would be like 15-hour days for Orange Mud, and it was just chaos. So every day, me being a manufacturing guy, I told my wife, I'm like, okay, well, part of what helps me to keep moving forward is my latte in the mornings, which I stop at Starbucks every day, and I don't do the drive-through because it takes about 12 minutes to go through the drive-through. But if I go inside, it takes 6. But I still have to take that extra time to pull in the parking lot, go inside, come back out, and then drive to work, which is overall eating in between 15 and 20 minutes of my day, roughly. So I was at Sur La Table buying some new utensils, and I see this fancy machine called the Jura and the Micro 9. And so I look at this thing, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And the girl's like, would you like an espresso? I'm like, yes, I would. And she made me one, and I was like, well, that's all you have to do? And she's like, yeah, do you like lattes? I'm like, yeah, would you like a latte? I'm like, yes, I would. So she sets out the milk container, and the hose goes in it, and just makes it, and then pops the hose off and washes it off. Like, look, that's all you have to do. I'm like, oh, I'll take one. How much is it? She's like, $1,500. I was like, jeez. Like, I really should probably call my wife on this. Hold on a second. I called my wife, and I was like, hey, sweetie. So I'm at Sur La Table, and I found this fancy machine, and I kind of want to buy it. And she's like, no, we already have a Keurig. I'm like, yeah, but just hear me out. So, I ran through the time scenario and how much extra time I can squeak out in a week and all this stuff. And then I told her the cost, and she's like, definitely no, like absolutely not. And then she hung up on me, and I was like, huh. And I was still going to buy it. But I thought about it. I thought, well, I'll go home and work on her for a little bit. And then she called me back. She's like, are you really serious? Do you really want to, do we really need to spend $1,500 on a latte machine? Because here we've been like spending money hand over fist on Orange Mud,
right.
Investing in the company. And I was like, yeah, it'll pay for itself kind of in like a year. I just left it at that. Just a year, although it's a little bit vague in that one. But she's like, whatever, if you really want it. And it definitely wasn't like, yeah, sweetie, let's do it. It was like, whatever. So
it's one of those where you kind of think you might get in trouble when you get home anyway, but it doesn't matter. You do it anyway. Yeah, totally. It's generally I roll with it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission type of concept, especially when it comes to bikes. Or I sell it as, I've had that forever, even though I got a brand new wheel set in the garage. So, it's that type of thing. But on this one, yeah, it took a little bit, but I tell you what, and here's some of my other beefs, like my local coffee shop. So I went to 2 different ones. I went to this little local one, which I really like. I try to support my local guys, but they screwed up my latte on pretty much a daily basis. And I see, like, in 1 week, I paid 7 different prices for lattes. And each time I'm like, how do I keep paying a different price? They're like, well, I don't know. It was amazing how much they screwed them up, and they were so inconsistent. Like 1 out of 7 would be outstanding, 4 out of 7 would be terrible, and the other one would be okay. So it just got to the point where I'm like, well, I can make my own. And yeah, my machine's so cool because I can make 100% consistent latte every single morning. I can make one with almond milk, vanilla, whatever, soy milk, whatever you want. And then it's fun when people are over the holidays too. So yeah, you got to check it out. I got to give you
Jura,
credit.
Micro 9.
I got to give you credit too for how much thought you put into that sales pitch for the wife too. Like, I mean, you had the time down.
Yeah.
Like, all right, like 12 minutes.
Dude, I was
6
ready
minutes
to spell out the dollars and cents to her. I mean, I really was. I was going to throw it in a spreadsheet if I had to go back home and sell it. But
that's masterful. That's bravo.
But it's been great. It's like 3.5 years old. Still works great.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I know. Me too. I mean, I'd be freaking mad if it wasn't. But no, it's that thing. I love it, man.
Well, if I ever make it out to Colorado, I'm calling you to come over for coffee, man.
Made one from the airport.
Well, that's great. Well,
good times.
Well, Josh Sprague from Orange Mud, this has been a lot of fun, and I know that we've got a giveaway here for the listeners, too. We're going to put this up on the website, losttransition.com/win Orange Mud, or you can just click on the link in the show notes there. We've got a gift card that you've been generous enough to give us. Also, a promo code for a discount. Is that LITP15? Is that correct?
Yep, you got it.
Awesome. That'll get you 15% off Orange Mud products for the 30 days after this episode drops, so you can get yourself a transition wrap to avoid arrest, so you can get a Bartow pub hat to look as cool as any of the Bartows that we know or you know. And definitely also check out the Hydra Quiver and all of those other products. OrangeMud.com is the website. It has been a blast talking to you, Josh, and best of luck on all those crazy races. Better you than me this year. So
yeah.
Hey, thanks much, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and best of luck to you guys, too.
Our thanks again to Josh Sprague, and a reminder, go to losttransition.com, click on the show notes for that promo code LITP15, 15% off Orange Mud products for the next 30 days after the episode drops here, and also your chance to win an Orange Mud gift card at losttransition.com/win Orange Mud, or click on the link in the show notes for that. A reminder, Pete McGill, the running coach, coming up here in a couple weeks. We're going to figure out how to get you a little bit faster on the run. That difficult third leg of triathlon that is always just kind of a pain in the butt when you get to that point. We are going to talk with Pete on ways to get a little bit faster and make that a better part, a stronger part, hopefully, of your triathlon stable. Also, Kristen Seymour of the Fit Bottom Girls podcast, coming up toward the end of May, beginning of June. Looking forward to talking to her. Lots of great guests lined up, and we welcome your suggestions for other guests as well. Go to the website, losttransition.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, and let us know who you'd like to hear from in upcoming shows. And do us a small favor, subscribe, rate, and review. iTunes is probably the best place to do that. Honestly, a lot of the podcast listeners are still on iTunes, the old original, but we welcome our listeners via Stitcher. That's my podcast app, Google Play, TuneIn Radio app, YouTube, you name it. Anywhere you can leave a review or subscribe is great to get the show. And feel free to share us with a triathlete you know. It helps boost us in the podcast rankings. It helps us reach more triathletes out there, and honestly, makes it a lot more fun to produce the show when even more people are listening. We will talk to you again soon. I hope your races go well this weekend. Until next time, may all your transitions be smooth.